So now we're going to do a panel with your LCs, and they're going to share with you some of their experiences about teaching, and then you're going to have a chance to ask whatever questions you may have. Yeah, so have my panel LCs come up here. We've got some chairs for you.
Under pressure.
No, I'm not working on this panel.
Good hustle.
I'm being
Alright, so we're going to get started, guys. If you don't mind getting quiet, we want to get you out of here on time at 9 p.m. We're going to be respectful of your time. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our LCs. We want to first start off by asking what makes you most excited about teaching in PhD partner high schools. Can you take a second to think?
I can take it. I just love meeting all the high schoolers in there because they have a lot of similar experiences to what I had in high school, but then also very different. So I'm super excited getting to know what these high schoolers' lifestyles are like, how they think, and I think that's why I really like to go into the classroom, just to meet these kids and build a small relationship in 50 minutes and really learn who they are.
Yeah, Nora.
I agree with Nick. My number one favorite thing about being in the classroom is probably just answering student questions, getting really surprising student questions that make me think about the material that we know really well in a different way. My other favorite thing is just traveling to all these different neighborhoods. I really enjoy getting out of Hyde Park. Most of the schools we teach at are within a mile or two of Dat Donut, so I usually eat. Yeah, I love getting around the city.
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah, I think something that actually became really important to me was, like, especially last year, I taught at a lot of the same schools, and so I would get to know the people who would let you in, the security guards, the people in the front office. They would know me, they would recognize me, and say hi. And you teach with a lot of the same teachers, so you actually build relationships with their students, but also the teachers on top, and it becomes a really trusting, really awesome relationship. So that's one of my favorite things about the partner relationship.
Henry.
And on top of like the kids, of course, one thing that I find interesting is like seeing how each high school is like really unique and has like its own unique character. Like in some of them like really cool buildings. Like I actually went to I went from Tokyo, Japan, so I went to like a private school there. It's really interesting like seeing what Chicago public schools are like and seeing all different types of schools that exist within like Chicago public schools. That's one thing I think is really cool.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that from like the educational climate in Chicago is something that a lot of people talk about and a lot of people comment on. And it's interesting to be able to go into these high schools and when people are having those kinds of conversations about like what's going on in the world of education in Chicago to be like, well, I teach at some of those schools and like here's what I've seen. So that's a way that you can contribute to like a larger conversation from kind of the experience we have here in high schools.
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it all. It's kind of the same thing. Like my favorite part definitely is like talking to the students and getting to know. Some of them are so funny and they're like really fun to like, yeah, their personalities are really interesting and I like talking to them. That's my favorite part.
Great. So Helen, you talked a lot about how you connect both with the students and with the teachers and with the school, even when you go in. Can you guys all speak to some of the strategies that you maybe use to connect with those students? We obviously go in and don't have a whole bunch of time to build rapport. So can you talk about how you can do that in the classroom?
I think, yeah, we just start out by being like supportive and understanding. Go in, introduce yourselves, like ask them their names, like say where you're from, and then especially with the teachers, like ask them if we need to know something about the classroom, if they need like some time before the classroom to like get attendance done or something like that. Just like be really supportive and show them that you're there to like make their job easier so that they can do the same for us.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that I like to do is I kind of like to relate myself to the students through the curriculum. And I don't know, one important thing in PhD is that you don't want to share personal information, especially about health decisions that you may make, but at least relating yourself to them. I mean, like one thing in our curriculum is like, how do you remember to like keep a visit at a health clinic? And just saying like, I know that this is important for me because I forget everything. So it's really important to like tell someone I know to remind me, or to like put it in my phone, or to put a sticky note or something. But just kind of like demonstrating to them that it's not all like you lecturing down like, oh, this is me, this is like my my esteemed knowledge and I'm just sharing it with you. I feel like these are things that like a lot of people, like especially our age, still struggle with. So relating yourself to them.
Henry?
And I think one thing that's important is that like starting as soon as this class begins, like when the students start like walking, I think it's a good idea, like say hi, like how's it going, like try and get them like create like a peer environment from early on. So just like standing at the front and being like all like teacher-like, and I think that's one thing that could help you relate to students.
Yeah, I think it's important to just like be yourself. It can be kind of strange to be at the front of a classroom and you're kind of like, I'm not sure how to act, but really just like being casual, being comfortable. These are conversations that kids have with each other, that we have with each other, you know? So it's easy to just kind of continue that conversation in maybe a more structured setting, but still like, yeah, just like being yourself and being casual about it.
And then along with that, just like having fun. Like you can make jokes in the classroom. Sometimes the kids will make jokes in the classroom, and that's what makes those workshops so much fun. And I think that's why Peer Health Exchange works so well, because we can joke around with these kids in the high school as they're learning this information, and they're like, hey, this stuff is kind of fun. Maybe I'll remember it later.
Maybe.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Fingers crossed, yeah. All right, so we have one more question for you, and I think we're going to do a lightning round. So we want to get everyone out on time. So, what is something new that you learned about schools while serving as a PHE volunteer? So put it in like 1 or 2 sentences. It's okay, Nora.
I can start. I think I figured out what it's really like to be a teacher. Like I look back to my own high school years, and then like your role has completely changed. Now you're the teacher, and you're actually experiencing what it's like to try and teach someone, and you were the student at one point. So it's a total role reversal, which is a little bit strange, but also, you know, really enlightening.
Yeah, Henry?
I think you really learn how much effort goes into like teaching, like how much effort is like put into like every like lesson plan and like every word, like just organizing school as a whole. It's like such a complex process. You really get an idea of that through Peer Health.
Yeah, I don't want this to come out badly, but like the amount of power that you have as a teacher, like, no, but I mean, like if you say like, okay, turn to page this, start working on the do now, the kids will do it most of the time. But I mean, I think it really reminds you of the importance of this position, especially since you're providing with such like valuable information. I don't know, it just really grounds you in your role.
Yeah, just thinking of the peer model, like you learn to have like a balance between like authority and like disciplining them, but at the same time you're still their peer. And like in the first few times you go into the classroom, that might feel weird, but eventually you learn how to like strike that balance between like being their friend, but then also saying, hey guys, it's time to actually get back to the workshop.
Yeah, I think it can also be really interesting to talk about like what you can learn from high schools is to try to make relationships or form relationships with the teachers in the classroom. And we talked about how different the teachers are at different schools, and that can really give you a lot of insight into, again, like kind of the different educational landscape at different types of schools in the city and how kids in those classrooms respond to different styles of teaching, or just kind of what it's like to be a teacher and be a student in Chicago.
I always kind of like going into the classroom. You know, a lot of these kids they've probably gone to school together for the last 10 years, and just kind of seeing all their different relationships and how they, you know, you'll have class who are like best friends and they've known each other for years, and I just really like, I'm really nosy, so I just kind of like thinking about how they relate to each other and see how it plays out in class. I don't know that's what you meant by your question, but
Sure. Okay, great. So now we've asked a few questions. Hopefully you guys have sensed the theme of partnership throughout their answers. We want to open up the floor. If you would have a question that you would like to ask, go ahead and raise your hand, and you can pose it to your houses. Yeah, Connie.
Well, if you like best PHE memory, like all your teachers doing PHE, like other grade that stands out.
I feel Nora.
It isn't like a super like entertaining or like stunning story, but in our workshop last year we talked about how sometimes if you had sex for the first time, that can just feel kind of strange, not like necessarily in a bad way, but it's just like a new experience that you've had, and it might just like feel kind of weird. And I said that once in the classroom, and this boy who like hadn't really said anything the whole time was like, "Man, that's what I've been saying. It was weird." Just kind of like an unexpected like emotional connection with this boy boy who had like felt validated in some way for like.
Anyone want to follow that?
I think my most meaningful, I've taught mental health for well, this will be my third year. And it's a pretty sensitive topic. So some of the students have had experiences with mental health in the past. In one workshop I was teaching, a girl pulled me over and she was like, "Thank you for teaching this. Like, no one has talked about mental health like this straight to us before." She was like, I've had these experiences in the past, and like, this is the first time where I've really been able to talk about them. So that really stuck with me because now this girl, she knows who she can talk to get help. She knows that people are actively talking about these health topics. So she felt more comfortable talking about her own mental health, which I thought was really great.
Oh, I guess one for me is kind of actually related to that. Is people feeling comfortable in speaking like one-on-one. I mean, that's one of the best things about being in this position is you really do, even in like a short period of time in the class, you build really positive, trusting relationships. And I've had numerous students come up to me after class and either thank me or like have asked more questions or like start a greater discussion. But I think that even in like the scope of the classroom, like seeing the transformation that takes place, people who may at first seem disinterested or like kind of sitting in the back not talking, like watching them once we start a really great discussion about something, actually like voicing their opinion, advocating for what they believe in, and being empowered by the information that we provide them to like actually speak their truth. I think that, especially for the workshops that I've taught in the past, that's just been so important.
This is more of a general thing, not so much one specific moment, but I've learned so much about my topic since I started teaching. Like, for example, last year, every workshop I taught about sexually transmitted infections. And every workshop I taught, students would ask me about female condoms, and I really didn't know anything about female condoms, but the first time a student asked me about it, I went home and researched them, and now I know more about female condoms than, like, any of my friends. No one wants to talk to me about them ever, but I can show you how to like, I'll talk to you about it forever, so that's my grade for me, not for anyone else.
Well, are you guys good? We'll move on to the next question. All right, are there any more questions? No? All right. Well, you guys will have the opportunity to continue talking with these LCs as well as the other LCs who are here